Hi there, welcome to the 365 Challenge, 365 guitar lessons in 365 days. In this lesson I'm going to talk about intervals, tell you what they're called and show you how they sound. Intervals can be thought of as the names given to the distances between one note and another note. Let me clarify that. If I were to play any note at all on the guitar, and then play another note on the guitar. What I just played there, for example, was C and then E. Now the C I played sounds lower than the E that I played. Now there must be some kind of distance, measurable distance between the C, which is the lower note, and the E, which was the higher note. So what is that distance? If we follow the C, we follow our way up one string, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So it took 4 frets, there was 4 frets there, so that's 4 semitones or 2 tones. Now, so C and E are a particular distance apart, and that distance has been given the interval name major third. Now, you don't need to understand why just yet. You just need to start to get the idea that any note is going to be a certain number of frets or semitones away from any other note. And therefore, because there are only 12 notes, you're going to end up giving each of these distances a name, and there's going to be 12 names. 12 notes, 12 intervals, 12 names. Okay? So, let's go through them. What I'm going to do is use the A string, 5th string. I'm going to use that as our root note. So just because it's at the beginning of the alphabet, and also because I've got an open A string, it's quite sort of handy to play the root note and the intervals at the same time so you can hear what they sound like together. So, open A string, that's our root note. And then the note that's 1 fret higher than A is A sharp. So it's those two notes are a distance of just 1 fret, 1 semitone apart. And here's how they sound when you play an A and an A sharp at the same time. Very dissonant. They're so close to each other that they clash. So dissonant, opposite of harmonious. So you know you will find those notes being used together sometimes, but to create a certain dissonant effect. So that is a minor second. 2 notes, any 2 notes on any instrument that are only a semitone apart, the root note being the lower note and then the next note up, the semitone higher being the next note, is a minor second. Okay, so 2 notes apart, that's a minor second. Well, that's what John Williams used for Jaws, wasn't it? Yes, quite an ominous sort of sound. So let's move on to the next note. We've got A, still our root note, and now B, that's 2 semitones higher. So A and B, what do they sound like together? Again, pretty dissonant. Not as dissonant as a minor second. This is known as a major second. So, just to recap, A is our root note, B flat is a minor second, and B, 2 frets distance, is a major second. Let's move on to the next one. C. What do A and C sound like together? It's starting to sound a bit nicer now. That's a minor third, and then a C sharp. That's a major third. A and D together. That's a perfect fourth. Now, this note here, or this interval rather, it's an interval of 6 frets, 6 semitones, and it's got quite a few different names. In some circumstances it would be referred to as a sharp 4th or sharp 11th. In other circumstances it would be referred to as a flat 5th, also known as a diminished 5th. It's known as the blues note as well because it's in the blues scale. And it's known as a tritone in some circumstances as well. Yes, so that one's got quite a few different names. I often think of it as a sharp fourth or a flat fifth. Then we've got a distance of 7 frets from the root note. This is a perfect fifth. And then A and F together, that gives you a minor sixth. And then A and F sharp together, they give you a major sixth. And then A and G together, that is a minor seventh. And then A and G sharp, that's a major seventh. And then we've got to another A. This one's now an octave higher than the previous one, so a low A and a high A. If you were to go, they are 12 semitones apart, and if you were to go up one string and count it from this A until you got all the way up to the next A, you would of course find that an octave is 12 frets, 12 semitones. Or you could go from the open A string to the 12th fret of the A string. Okay, so let's just quickly blast through those again, just a quick recap of what they're called. It's a good idea to notice that there's which ones are called minor something or major something. Okay, minor second and major second, minor third and major third, minor sixth and major sixth, minor seventh and major seventh. So A on its own, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, the blues note, sharp fourth, flat fifth, etc., etc. Perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and octave. So there's your intervals. Another thing to point out is that if you keep on going, you've done 12 frets worth of distance there, but if you keep on going into another octave, then some of the intervals change names in the second octave up, and some of them don't. The ones that are always the same name are the root note, the third, whether it's major third or minor third, the fifth, the seventh, whether it's major seventh or minor seventh. But the other ones are the ones that might change. So you've probably heard of ninths, 11ths, and 13ths. Now, in order to discover what they are, you can take those numbers and you can minus 7 off them. So to find out what a ninth is, take 7 away. What are you left with? 2. So a minor second or a major second might also be referred to as a well, major second is a standard ninth, so 2 plus 7 equals 9. And a minor second could be referred to as a flat 9. And you might be thinking, why? Why is there suddenly so much maths involved? Well, let's just run through it very quickly. If you were using the A major scale, it's got 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that note could be referred to as number 8, but it's actually the same as number 1. So we started on A, and we ended on an A. So we don't call that 8, we call it 1, it's the root note. And if we carried on, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 is back to another root note, okay? So we've got 7 notes in one octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then another 7 notes in the next octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you're back to 1 again there. Now what happens is, as I said, the notes that are in the chord, like a root, a third, a fifth, and a seventh, they always keep their names the same. Doesn't matter what octave they're in, they're always called the same thing. But the other ones, the second, the fourth, and the sixth, in the second octave you can add 7 to those. So 2 becomes 9. Let's just play those. So 2 becomes 9 up there. And then 4 add 7 becomes 11. And 6 becomes 13, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay? So that's a slightly odd musical convention. It's something that can make understanding the whole thing slightly more complicated than it really needs to be. But there you go. That's how you do that. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yes, I was going to say that which octave they're in, you might think, oh, I must have to be really specific. Am I in the first octave or am I in the second octave? Should this be called a second or should it be called a ninth? Actually, you don't need to worry about that too much, because if you think about it, I just played 2 octaves of the A major scale. Now, on the guitar, you can play almost 4 octaves of the, well, if you started on E, the lowest note, do 1 octave there, another one there, a third one there, and almost managed to get a 4th one out of it up there. So that's 4 octaves. So you might think, well, hang on, it's 4 octaves. Does that mean there's going to be 4 different names for a major second? But no, it's either a major second or a ninth. But then, if you think about the piano, I think the piano's got 8 octaves. I don't play the piano. I think it's got 8 octaves. So then you might think that would add complication to it. In fact, it kind of becomes something that you don't need to worry about. Should this be called a second or a ninth? They're pretty much always called ninths in terms of constructing chords. So, like a major 7th chord would have the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th intervals of the major scale, and a major 9th chord would have the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th intervals of the major scale. And that's probably where that naming convention comes from, because you wouldn't include the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th, because the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all together would sound. Can I do that on the guitar? Let's see. If I did a C and I need to do a D as well. So you might do that sometimes, but that would be like something you can experiment with to see if you like the sound of it or not. So that was using a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all in the same octave, whereas usually you'd skip the 2nd, so you'd go 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and then get to the 9th, which is an octave higher than the 2nd. Okay. Whew, went a bit rambly at the end there. Hope you got that. Any questions at all, you can contact me through one-to-one-guitarlessons.co.uk, and I will put a sheet of these interval names for you to download and study. That will be on one-to-one-guitarlessons.co.uk/365. Look out for the products page. You can download it from there. Okay, hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please subscribe if you did, and follow me on Twitter and find me on Facebook and all that kind of stuff.